Hi everyone, thank you for listening to the Highlights from Ukraine podcast, your daily audio summary of the latest news reported in the Ukrainian media. My name is Artem, and here is the news. 434 days less the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Russia claimed that two Ukrainian drones attacked the Kremlin yesterday, reports Ukrainska Pravda. The official Kremlin called the attack a planned act of terrorism and an assassination attempt on the president. Kremlin-aligned media outlets report that Putin was not injured and there were no other casualties or damage. Moscow also noted that the Russian side reserves the right to take retaliatory measures where and when it deems necessary. Ukraine denied such allegations and stressed that its aim is only the liberation of its territory. We are not attacking either Putin or Moscow, we are fighting on our own territory. We don't even have enough weapons for that. We did not attack Putin, we will leave it to the tribunal, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said at a briefing in Helsinki. Karine Jean-Pierre, the spokeswoman of the White House, said that the United States could not yet confirm the credibility of reports of a drone attack on the Kremlin, reports European Pravda. The spokeswoman stressed that since the beginning of the war, the United States did not encourage Ukraine to resort to attacks outside its borders. At the same time, she stressed that Russia has a history of conducting operations under a false flag. U.S. State Secretary Antony Blinken said that he would perceive everything that comes out of the Kremlin with a very large shaker of salt. According to the U.S. Institute for the Study of War, Russia likely staged this attack in an attempt to bring the war home to a Russian domestic audience and set conditions for a wider mobilization of society, reports Espresso. The experts point out that Russian authorities have recently taken steps to increase Russian domestic air defense capabilities, including within Moscow itself, and it is therefore extremely unlikely that two drones could have penetrated multiple layers of defense and detonated or been shot down just over the heart of the Kremlin in a way that provided spectacular imagery caught nicely on camera. The Kremlin's immediate, coherent and coordinated response to the incident suggests that the attack was internally prepared in such a way that its intended political effects outweighed its embarrassment. It is very likely that the official Russian response would initially have been much more disorganized, as Russian officials scrambled to generate a coherent narrative and offset the rhetorical implications of a clear informational embarrassment. The rapid and coherent presentation of an official Russian narrative around the strikes suggests that Russia staged this incident in close proximity to the May 9th Victory Day holiday, in order to frame the war as existential to its domestic audience. The Kremlin may use the strikes to justify either cancelling or further limiting May 9th celebrations. Actions that would likely augment the information effort framing the war in Ukraine as directly threatening Russian observance of revered historical events. The Institute believes that the Kremlin may be planning to conduct other false flag operations and increase disinformation ahead of a Ukrainian counteroffensive in order to increase domestic support for the war. President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky visited Finland yesterday, where a meeting with the leaders of the North European countries took place, reports Interfax Ukraine. The Nordic NATO member countries reiterated their commitment to continue to support Ukraine on its way to the alliance. According to a joint statement by the presidents of Finland and Ukraine, the prime ministers of Denmark, Iceland, Norway, and Sweden, the Nordic countries will continue their political, financial, humanitarian, and military support to Ukraine for as long as it takes. They also intend to participate in the restoration and reconstruction of Ukraine after the war and will also strongly support Ukraine in its efforts to carry out reforms and in meeting the requirements necessary for the early start of negotiations on EU accession. Zelensky stressed that Ukraine should become the 33rd member of NATO. He noted that Kyiv understands that in times of aggression it is impossible for Ukraine to join the alliance. But there are no obstacles to make a political decision on the algorithm of its accession. The president said that this will be the best guarantee of security for Ukraine. During his visit to Finland, President Zelensky said that Ukraine will receive modern aircraft after the offensive, reports TSN UA. He pointed out that Ukraine usually receives different types of weapons after successes on the battlefield. Zelensky added he wished it was the other way around, but is grateful for even how it is now. 21 civilians killed and 48 injured as a result of the Russian shelling of the city of Kherson and Kherson Oblast, reports Radio Liberty. According to Volodymyr Zelensky, Russia attacked a railway station and crossing a house, a hardware store, a supermarket, and a gas station. The president expressed his condolences to the families and friends of the victims. We will never forgive those responsible. We will defeat the evil country and hold all those involved accountable, promised Zelensky. The ambassadors of the EU member states approved the decision to allocate 1 billion euros for the purchase of ammunition for the armed forces of Ukraine, reports Interfax Ukraine. Earlier, there were disagreements between the members of the Union. In particular, France insisted that components exclusively from the EU countries and Norway be used in production of ammunition. This was opposed by Poland, which was supported by other EU countries. It is not reported how this dispute was solved. The Highlights from Ukraine podcast is a commercial initiative of just two people, and we need your help to grow. Share information about the podcast, rate us in the app, subscribe to our Patreon. With your support, we are getting better. We call on you to demand from governments of your countries to impose the toughest sanctions possible on Russia and its citizens to stop their invasion of Ukraine.